Do you like telling children that Santa doesn't exist?
One of my
Welcome to Splintered Spirits. I'm your host, Gary, along with my nephew, John Santa from Santa Paranormal, where we try to find the answer to the question, what are spirits? Today, we are bringing our questions to the ultimate test by welcoming James Underdown as a guest, who specializes in applying scientific rigor to extraordinary claims. James is the executive director of the Center for Inquiry West in Los Angeles and the founder of the Independent Investigations Group, an organization famous for offering a $500,000 prize to anyone who can prove paranormal ability under test conditions. As the host of Point of Inquiry podcast and the creator of the Skeptic web series, James has spent years debunking wacky claims and investigating the unexplained. And well, shit, John and I are loaded with those. Let's dive into the conversation. Hey, James, welcome to Splintered Spirits.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So, I wanted to I don't know how much you know about us. This whole thing started with me trying to figure out what the hell my nephew John here is doing for a living, and I was very skeptical. John and I were both raised Catholic in New York. We're both atheists. Yet he has got 1 million followers as a very successful live streamer on social media. He's not a ghost hunter. He's a documenter, and he just talks to spirits through various apps. And I've got into this thing as a producer out here, trying to figure out a format around this in a podcast kind of way, but also for myself, just really find it interesting talking to different people about what they think spirits are and how it comes about. And that's when I sort of discovered the CFI, and what you do, and I'm fascinated by it. So maybe really quickly, can you tell me and the audience here, like what CFI is and how you came about being a part of it?
Yeah, so in general terms, CFI is a nonprofit educational organization. Our two main areas of focus are the philosophy of secular humanism, separation of church and state, that sort of thing, rights of non-believers. But the organization actually started from what we call the skeptical side. We started publishing Skeptical Inquirer magazine in 1976. And that end of the organization just deals with all these wacky claims, paranormal claims, everything from UFOs to the Bermuda Triangle to spoon bending, you name it. We've investigated it. So we have a branch out here in Los Angeles called CFI West, and at this branch, I run a group called the CFI Investigations Group. And we do investigations about paranormal claims. And we're the world's largest testers of people who claim to have paranormal ability. We have a $500,000 prize for anyone who thinks that they can dowse or look into the future or move things.
So that's you, James. That's you and your organization, because I've heard of this.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start the organization, but yeah, the CFIIG, I did start the investigations end of it.
Nice, cool.
So now, James, what attracted you personally? I mean, you're a stand-up comic, and what attracted you personally to go from comedy to being, which obviously very creative endeavor, to being a skeptic professionally?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I left the Catholic Church when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and I always had an interest in religion and what people believe. And I think, when I was a teen, I had some interest in UFOs, and I read Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods and read some stuff about ESP, and it all sort of interested me. And then I found out that Skeptical Inquirer existed and started learning the science side of all these beliefs. And I was like, oh, you dumbass, you had it all wrong. And then I started getting interested in, well, why do people believe in these things and what's really going on there? So I kind of started working with the organization and just got deeper and deeper into it.
Do you like telling children that Santa doesn't exist?
It's one of my, I actually did do that. I've ruined Christmas for my sister and a lot of other people. And yeah, I mean, listen, get
No,
on the
like,
right track at a young age. All right. Forget about that.
no, I appreciate skepticism. I like to, I understand the necessity of it. What for me and for this, for what we do here, and I got a lot of more questions for you, but just so you sort of understand where we're coming from, it's like I always find debunking unfun, right? It's just not the fun. Like, it's easy to me to say no, and when I look at science as a whole, right? Like, more advancements have come from, the search to prove something than to disprove something. And while, yes, we can point to a few things where disproving has worked out great, right? Like pasteurization. Louis Pasteur was out to disprove a theory. Or, cars get safer by disproving how safe they are. There's certain advancements. But for the most part, trying to prove something, even in failure to prove something, leads to has led to greatness and moving forward. So it's,
Well, yeah, but let's be clear. We're not out to debunk things. We're out to find out what the most likely explanation for something is. So, and in our case, that often means it's this instead of that. But I mean, it's really it's almost impossible to disprove something depending on what it is.
Do you believe there's something out there? Like, do you believe in ghosts or that, or is it
No,
too far gone for you?
no, it's I've been doing this for like 26 years now, the investigations and when you have a logical science-based explanation for virtually every claim we've ever encountered, either, I mean, some things we just walk away and say, there's no way to know what happened. But when we really look into things, there's almost always a science-based explanation that is consistent with the laws of physics and with modern science. So instead of making that leap and saying it's a ghost or it's magic or whatever, we'll go with the more logical explanations.
What
which people have a hard time doing. What James is talking about, people, especially in my field, have a horrible time doing that. And I give a prime example of this. A name will come through on the spirit box. Let's say Rachel. Half of my chat is turning around saying, "Oh, that's my grandma.
I know,
Oh,
Rachel.
that's my best friend." And it's like, what are you talking about? It makes no sense. It's this association that people have, which is a big pitfall.
Well, and let's not forget too that, and this I include myself in this. Most people would love to think that there's an afterlife, that we're going to go somewhere and we get to see our dead relatives and friends and things like that. We want to believe this stuff. So that pulls most people who don't have the skeptical mindset well into that direction at the very beginning.
can you
It is funny too that you say that, because my findings prove the opposite of that. That the afterlife as we know it isn't this fluffy heaven clouds. We get to see grandma again afterlife. And people don't like to hear that. People don't
Well,
like to hear that at all.
yeah, well, that may be the case, but I guess what I'm talking about is that human beings understand that they're going to die someday, and most people don't like that idea. So
sure?
any continuation, any way to keep going, has a sort of natural attraction to it.
Well,
Uh,
I have to say this real quick. Once I'm unable to wipe my ass, I want to be out. So
Yeah, Yeah, right.
Because nobody wants to do that for you. Let me tell you, bud.
I don't want anybody doing that for me.
Nobody
you know?
wants to do that.
Well, count me out.
Gary, I'm sorry to keep cutting you off, man. What were you trying
No,
to
it's
say?
all right.
Yeah.
James, what do you find in all of your, work has been the most common natural explanation for what people perceive as energy or a presence?
I would say two things. Something going on with the state of their brain. And I don't mean that as an insult. It sounds like it.
Oh, mental illness.
No, it's great. I love it. No, keep going. Sure.
No, so that could be anything from some gray area between, actually, for the state of the
Between
brain.
mental illness and being an idiot.
No,
Well, and stress. There's all sorts of things.
exactly.
Too much stress.
Lack of sleep, drugs,
Yep.
And schizophrenia. And I mean, people see things all the time that aren't there. So those are just sort of malfunctions of the brain or states in some extreme that causes you to have this. And then I always ask someone, when did this thing happen? And 9 times out of 10, it's when they're asleep. I mean, I know you guys go out, the ghost hunter people go out and, are walking around and they're perfectly awake. But when someone usually tells a story about a ghost encounter, they're on the way to waking up or on their way to going to sleep. And you get that gray area where you're pulling from dreams and being awake.
What is what's been the funniest failed attempt you ever witnessed to win the 500 grand?
The funniest fail. There's been a lot of them. I mean, as you might imagine, we deal with some interesting people.
Oh yeah, I bet.
During COVID, a guy came over and said he could teleport himself across our parking lot. Which, I mean, this is a test I love because all I have to do is put like some police tape across here and tell them to go from this side to that side. And we're just kind of standing there. Everybody's got masks on. We're like, oh, anytime you're ready. And he goes, I did it. And we're like, no, you didn't.
Wait a minute. Did you guys have security? I mean, aren't you nervous about let's letting this guy in the door?
Well, yes. Yes, we have security. Yes, we are nervous sometimes. I mean, look, I have 2 ex-cops on my investigations team. So that helps. And, I've been in a few fights myself. So between the 3 of us, that calms me down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we've had people show up drunk off their asses to do a telepathy test.
I want to give myself 500 grand.
Yeah. Well, they showed up early one time, the 2 guys. And by the way, they took a bus all the way from Tacoma to get here for the test, which raised some suspicions right away because why would you? I mean, at the time, this is years ago, at the time, a flight from Tacoma was like $225 and the bus was $223. So why not just take an airplane to come down here?
I bet in the Zener test, everything was wavy, right? Wavy lines, wavy circle, wavy square.
Well, he made the mistake. It was a regular playing card. So he had a 1 out of 52 chance for each guess. And so they came early and we said, we're not ready for you yet. Just come back in an hour. And they came back in an hour with this much vodka left in an empty bottle. And they were stewed. And we had to kind of get together and say, do we even test these idiots? And, the answer was yes. I mean, being drunk doesn't necessarily preclude you from having paranormal powers. We can't just say, no, we're drunk. We don't want to deal with you. So we let them take the test.
So, James, have you ever gotten a psychic reading yourself?
Oh yeah, many times.
What do you think? How's that been?
Well, I mean, I know a fair amount about the technique called cold reading. and that's all it ever is. It's people prodding and probing, asking questions, making guesses that apply to lots of people. And there's books written on what cold reading is, but it is a
Sure.
technique, and it does, if it's done well, and some people are quite skilled at it. If it's done well, it sounds like, at least at points of the conversation, it sounds like you know something you couldn't have otherwise known. In 26 years of testing and dozens of tests, what percentage of people have tried to fool us to win the money? Is it A, 0%? Is it B, about 50%? Or is it C, all of them try something? What do you guys think?
I know the answer. I watched your website, so I'll let John take a guess.
Well, because I know how humans are with money, I'm going to have to go with C. I'm going to have to go with 100%.
Yeah, and that's what most people thought. And going into it, that's what I thought as well. And we still prepare for that, by the way. We prepare
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
But the answer is A, not a single person has tried to trick us in 26 years. Everybody who shows up is a true believer in their own abilities, and they're often shocked when they can't perform on demand.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
It's
That's
their own
interesting.
version.
Yeah.
They need their own. Yeah, they have performance anxiety,
Yeah. Yeah, right. And
psychic performance anxiety.
Well,
Well,
you
I
know
mean,
what?
listen. I mean, it's insane. Like, listen, I document spirits, right? That's what I do. I'm not, like Gary said, I'm not an investigator. I'm not trying to prove this. I'm not trying to prove that. It's amazing the amount of people that are like, we're going to send you the healing light of the phoenix to protect you, or the dozen Walmart mediums that come into the chat that claim that there's a little boy standing in the back room, and it's like that's not logical. There's no logic there. And even if they have a gift, how am I, with the 300 to 400 people that are watching me live, supposed to take that? We don't have a gift. We have no special powers. We're supposed to take that at face value.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
James, has anything ever given you pause? Have you ever been around something that is unexplained?
Well, the closest thing anyone ever came to, closest person anyone ever did to pass a test. And by the way, our tests are two-part. You have to pass what we call preliminary demonstration. And then if you pass that, you go on to the $500,000 prize. And the best anyone ever did in 26 years was one of my own guys sitting in the hot seat during a rehearsal where we had a bunch of objects behind a curtain, and he had to guess, 1 out of 10 of each of the objects, and he got like 3 or 4 in a row right. And I was like, all right, quit screwing around, you guys who's playing games. And no one was playing games. He actually just got super lucky, for those first few guesses. After that, he tanked and missed the rest of them. But yeah, the answer is nobody has gotten that close. It's really been sort of anticlimactic.
So no one's made it to the second part, is what you're saying. No
Not
one's
even
ever made it
close.
past the first part.
Not even close.
Not
Wow.
even.
So a lot of our listeners, a lot of our listeners, and a lot of John's followers, they use a lot of all the gear in the ghost world, right? They love it. From an engineering and perspective, why do you think these devices yield so many false positives? And is there any equipment that you even find remotely interesting?
No, we don't use any of that stuff. I mean, first of all, it's based on the premise that ghosts have an electromagnetic. Well, it's based on the premise that ghosts exist, A, and B, if they do exist, they have this ability to interact with an electromagnetic field. So those are two assumptions that people are making about this gear that are unproved as far as we're concerned. So when you're firing up an EMF meter and the dial moves over or the thing lights up or whatever, yeah, it's detecting something. It's detecting EMF. There's EMF everywhere. We're bombarded by radio waves and microwaves and, across the spectrum,
And
all the
ourselves.
time. What's that?
And ourselves.
And yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons for these
Yeah.
instruments going off.
Well, yeah, I
So
mean, look, we met this one ghost hunter from the UK, and this guy really he really impressed me in just terms of how he thinks about things. This guy Stephen Parsons, and he wrote a book called Ghostology, and all it does is the majority of the book talks about equipment, and it's not about. It's like, listen, man, this is an EMF meter. It measures electromagnetic fields. It doesn't measure ghosts.
yeah,
It just measures
Yep.
electromagnetic fields.
that's right.
This is a camera. It's the human eye sees at this rate. This camera sees at 8 pixels. It's not that good compared to the eye. Know what you're, and he talks about it. And you would love this. The one thing that stood by us, he described ghost hunters to like real scientists, whereas a real scientist will do a triple blind experiment, and if the results come back that's not in their favor, they go, well, I guess we were wrong.
Mhm.
Whereas a ghost hunter will do a triple blind experiment, and if the results don't come back in their favor, they'll go, well, I guess the ghosts are really just something must be wrong. It didn't match. So it just doesn't look like they won't.
It
They
didn't
never
match what
accept
they
it.
wanted.
And he's a ghost hunter, right? He's a believer. He understands. But he values a human experience. Which I think is sort of an interesting sort of take on all this stuff. Do you find in your experience as a showman and as a professional comedian that you sort of understand how people are coming at you in a certain way when you're trying to deconstruct like their story? It's like, I mean, you said that they're not trying to hoax you, but do you feel you have a better eye for bullshit because of it?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, any of us, James Randi used to say this all the time. Any of us can be fooled. Penn and Teller don't know how every magic trick in the world is done. So, it's possible that we can be fooled too. We take these precautions, but yeah, I mean, experience helps a lot. Knowing people in the magic performer world helps because I have a little bit of knowledge about how mentalists work and conjurers work. All that stuff really helps. And by the way, I also have, let's see, I think either 4 or 5 mental health professionals on our team right now. So that's a big deal too, to be able to look through the lens of people who are experiencing unique things that the rest of us are not experiencing. Are you seeing things? Are you hearing things that no one else is seeing or hearing? Well, there are reasons and explanations for that. And sometimes the mental health world are the people to tap for that.
So,
Do
James,
you,
the majority of the cases that you deal with, would you say they're like psychic or mediums, or is it like mixed?
It's
well,
pretty
yeah. What are they trying to prove?
Yeah, it's pretty mixed. Probably telepaths are the most frequent person. And we find this sort of weird. Most of the people who contact us say they are transmitting and other people can hear their thoughts, which raises the flag of schizophrenia or some other mental issue.
Mhm.
So I can't hear other people's thoughts, but they can hear my thoughts, which sometimes causes a problem because we're like, well, we don't want to be the other side of that equation. You got to find someone else who can hear your thoughts, and we're going to give you some stuff to send across. So that's probably the most. We get a fair amount of dowsers. People can douse for water or
Oh,
precious
dowsing rods.
metals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of telekinetics, people think that they are moving things with their minds. And, if you have seen the stuff online, it's almost always something super light, like a little
Oh
tiny
yeah, like
piece of foil.
tissues or something. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, it's such a. I know exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Although a couple of people have said that they can move a car. And I'm like, okay,
Let's see
meet me
it.
in the parking lot. We're going to tape
Yep.
off the wheels. Just
Yep.
get it past the tape, and I'll
Yep.
write the check right now.
That's
Yep. It's
amazing.
just not my car, right? It's just not my car.
James, do you believe in, intuition or certain things like? Do you think people have anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of thing. I guess it depends on what you mean by intuition, but if
Well,
you,
here's what I mean.
Like you're
Everyone
sitting
has a,
you're sitting in a bar, right? And then all of a sudden somebody walks in, your back is to the door, yet you get that feeling like, oh crap, who just walked in here, and you look and it's like, okay, who is this? Like that sort of thing.
just getting like a bad vibe off of
Yeah,
somebody,
yeah,
like
yeah,
the fighter, like a fight or flight sort of reflex that we all have, like like
yeah,
just something like on that level. Do you
yeah.
believe in that as a?
Well, I do believe in that, but I don't think there's anything magical about it.
No, no.
I think we perceive the world unconsciously in a lot of ways that we're not aware of. We're hearing things, we're seeing things, sensing, feeling. We're using all our senses in a way. And if something all of a sudden, and I was a bouncer for a while, so I sort of know what this is. If something's not right, like it gets quiet over there, or you know, uh, something weird out of the ordinary happen, you may not be consciously aware of it, but it does grab your attention in some way. And I think that's what a lot of people are talking about when they're talking about intuition. Or if someone's like creepy somehow, or like you say, you're getting a bad vibe off them. That's not happening in a vacuum. You're observing something that's causing that feeling.
That's all. That's all true. I don't disagree with it. I
Yeah, I
wonder
agree. Yeah, I agree with
if.
that 100%.
And I just wonder if what that means, though. Some people are better at picking up those signs than others, right? Like
Oh.
I look at it, I compare a lot of this in a lot of the people I've talked to just doing this podcast, right? Like, and people have heard me say it before. Someone who could throw a baseball at 98 miles an hour, I don't think you can teach it. You might be able to get, if you could throw a baseball that fast, you probably could throw it fast, and then you can get a little better with training. But you can't teach someone who can do it, who can't do it, to get there.
Yeah.
And it's a gift, right? To be able to do that, to
Well,
me, is some sort of a difference in your physiology that it's a gift.
yeah, but nobody walks out of the house and throws a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. They work at it for years, and so there is.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I mean, this is when you start talking about pro athletes, which the same concept could be expanded into other things. Your genetics and your environment are key to that. And so, can genetics and environment make someone a better observer or be more sensitive to something that's going on around them? Absolutely. I mean, I depend on it. Before I leave the house, I ask my wife every time, everything okay? Do I have the green light to leave? And she's like, yeah, I trust her vision and sensibilities more than my own. So it happens.
Right. There's a lot of with all of the paranormal shows that are out there, right? And that sort of really popped, which is probably why, the tech is so big, and it's, you got to show up in vans to sort of with gear to prove to people you think that you're a scientist by having gear. But has that, sort of, do you feel like that's just harmless fun, or is it really do you find it damaging to the public's perception of science?
I mean, it's mostly fun, and I mean, I know a lot of people just don't take it that seriously. It's not, but the problem is it does influence people's beliefs about things, and because it's one-sided, you get to shoot all day and edit it down to the half hour of interesting stuff that happens, to the exclusion of all the boring and nothing happens stuff. And it doesn't represent reality. So I do get a little discouraged that, people walk away from a show like that and they're like, how do you explain that? And I say, you got 5 minutes? How do you explain John Edward? How do you explain Teresa Caputo and all these other people who are doing this stuff on TV? They're editing the hell out of this thing. And what you're watching is not what happened in real life. But nobody knows that.
What is the single most persistent myth that you find, people that you consider intelligent, rational people still believe in?
Well, I mean,
Other than God.
well, yeah, he's number one, the big guy, number one. Um, I don't know. I mean, the, the UFO thing is a little discouraging because, again, and you got to remember, people are making money off of all these beliefs. They're they're doing podcasts and they're writing books and there's TV shows and all this stuff. So there's great incentive for people to perpetuate a wrong version of some of the stuff that happened. And with the UFOs and with the ghosts too, all these things have real rational science-based explanations, and most people just don't go seek those out. It's a lot more fun to think that we're being visited by aliens from another planet or that ghosts are living in our attic. That's the sexier, more interesting story than here's the science behind why this video looks like this, but it's really that.
Do you leave yourself open though for the unknown? I mean, it's like we've talked about it here, right? We didn't even know how lightning works until we invented the high-speed camera. You know what I mean? It's like there's still, and I've heard some of the people on your, it's like the neuroscience, the neurologist on your show talk about consciousness. Mm. And it was, and yes, I agree. Consciousness is developed in the brain. But then he sort of stops there. And I think the truth is we really don't know what consciousness is. We know where it starts, but we don't know what it is yet.
I mean, that there's a lot to learn about consciousness is true. And I think the people who studied in depth would admit that. But what we were talking about, and the guy's name is Steve Novella, and he's a neuroscientist, and he's brilliant guy. That discussion was talking about whether something survives death. And so for this ghost or whatever that's walking around and can talk and scaring people and blah, 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 continues on after your body is dead, that's extremely unlikely and not at all supported by the science. So consciousness goes away when the brain stops functioning and it doesn't have its own self-existence like some ball that just leaves your dead body and finds somewhere else to be. That's just not consistent with the science.
Yeah, listen, I can't argue because I don't know how it all works. There's the one thing that we sort of play up in here or talk about a lot, and which
you can't argue science.
Well, yeah, but the one thing we talk about here a lot,
like a ball doesn't fly out of someone's body, and that's the spirit. That's the trouble I deal with when I'm documenting spirits. So James, I don't know if you know this, but I have theories, right? About memory and about what spirits are. I believe they're memory, right? Because like you, James, the way you described it, there's no way the brain dies and then all of a sudden our spirit floats out of our body, Trying to explain this to people in such a saturated environment is near impossible. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to believe in God. They want to believe in angels. They want to believe in all this. They can't. First of all, people have a hard time knowing that I'm an atheist and I document spirits. That's like, but
just make it succinct. John believes that the spirits he's talking to are memories that are somehow attached to matter, energy or electricity and matter that disperse or dissipate from our body when we pass, because we do have electrical synapses in our brain.
Right.
That energy does go somewhere. We don't know where, we don't know how, and we don't know truly what consciousness is, and that these might be imprints of memory somehow, whatever, determined. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's like that might be what it
Neither
could
do
be,
I.
right?
No,
Like that's a theory.
well,
Neither
no,
do
that's
I.
okay. And you can argue with science. You can, if you have a competing theory with, what the popular scientific consensus is on anything, absolutely come up with something better. Throw it out there,
See what happens.
document it, test it,
Yeah.
do it. I mean, I don't know of anyone, who thinks that in the world, who understands what both memory is and physics are, that somehow those two things could be reconciled. Maybe it can, but the onus is on you, who are saying this is what I believe. The onus is on you to show how that's possible.
No, for sure. For you, look. I love,
100%.
I love reading. Like I'm right now. This is my book of. I'm onto this book, right? Carl Sagan's, which is a great, skeptic, skeptical look at all this stuff. And I read another book by a professor named Mark Eaton called Sensing Spirits, which is great because it's really about the social construct of ghosts. Like the only reason you call the unexplained a ghost is because it's how you were raised. You heard a ghost story, your parents talking about these horror movies. The only reason you know what a ghost is because you were told what one was when you were little. If it's like the gods must be crazy. If you never had a Coke bottle, you wouldn't know what it's for. So it's that, you know what I mean? Like it's that idea. So I do get a lot of it. I think for me, I put a little more stock in this idea of intuition from what I've seen, and sort of like this muscle that some people just might be more in tune with something for now, and we don't know how to measure it. That unexplained thing that we don't know how to measure. Because when I've gotten readings, and I've had one reading that just blew my mind, and I can't figure out the specifics of what she told me. I cannot.
And it wasn't
figure
a
out how she
cold
could have
reading
possibly
either.
known
It wasn't. That was the thing.
It wasn't a cold reading.
It wasn't a cold
It was
reading.
very
it was more like a
strange.
rambling. Hey, James, real quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
What
cold
is
reading
the-
Wait, go ahead.
is rambling.
Wait, John. Go ahead, James.
Cold reading is rambling. I would love to hear that reading, a recording of that, and go over it and analyze it a little bit and
I
talk
posted
about
it.
what
We
you
can make
I
that
did.
do. You have
happen.
the recording?
Yeah. I aired it. It's the whole thing. Yeah, I aired
Okay,
the whole
yeah.
thing.
Send that to me because I'll send you a detailed. I'll tell you exactly how she did it. Probably.
That could be a whole
How's that
episode,
Okay.
technically. Hey, James, listen.
Yeah.
James, can you tell us the funniest thing that you've come across when dealing with this, with just dealing with people and their claims? Like, what made you, when you rest your head at night, just put a smile on your face and chuckle before you go to bed thinking about it?
There was
Besides
one
the
guy.
teleporter.
There was one guy on the south side of Chicago, where I'm from, incidentally, and he said that he had a magical horsefly that could escape his cookie jar. So I said, "Now, boy, tell me about the cookie jar is sealed, and he was in there last night, and this morning he's gone." Yes. Are you sure it was screwed on tight? Yes. Um, and then he came back like 6 months later. The guy's name is John. And I said, "John, I don't think flies live for 6 months. Are you sure it's the same one?" And he said, "Oh yeah, it's him, all right."
Wow.
Yeah, that's
All
him,
right.
all
Well,
right. You know,
yeah.
I
Well,
can
yeah.
tell by his
Like I
little
know,
wings. You know.
no mistaking this guy. So
Oh,
I said,
wow.
"All right, John, look, this is what the test is going to look like. You're going to have to catch a horsefly and put them in the jar, and you're going to have to give me the jar for a night or something, or I don't know how we're going to do this, but we're going to check him in the morning and see if he's still there, and that's going to be the test." So
James, what do you think the test would be for for us, for John's theory, if we wanted to try to win the 500 grand, this
Well, but
idea
hold
that
on.
spirits are
I gotta time you out for a second there, Gary. I wouldn't be able to do it because I feel I have no
I know
gifts.
that I know you wouldn't.
You
That's why
know,
I'm
I don't
asking
have
James.
any gifts.
James, I know. That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking James. What would be if somebody walked in with this theory? What would you say to them? How would they to try to prove it or
Yeah,
disprove it?
Oh, you're
well,
talking
I
about the
mean, and
theory, bro. It's different.
this is part of our process is we have to narrow down what you're saying to a provable, demonstrable claim that we can test. So, I mean, the way our process would work, I would say, John, you're saying that a memory somehow attaches itself to something physical. How do you know that? How does it manifest itself? Could we, I'd have to dig deeper into it just to see what it is in the first place and if it could be demonstrated. Because a lot of people come to us and they're like, oh, I can do this, 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 and this, and you have to follow me and around. And it's like, no, give us your best thing that is sort of
Yeah, no. See
testable in
that?
a
Yeah, see
way.
that's the thing. You, you wouldn't have to like shadow me around. We wouldn't have to go to a cemetery. You know, according to the theory, you know, spirits are everywhere, memories are everywhere. It could be a building that's been there for 50 years. And we run a spirit box. I talk to whatever's there, and in hoping that we get somebody who worked there.
Well,
That would be the only way to test it. But then again, then you go against the validity of the spirit boxes, and you go up against, the random chance
well,
of a name being said. Yeah, it's yeah. Listen, I trust me because James, I am a skeptic. I always say this. I am 90% skeptic, 10% believer. And I set the bar high for myself with my documentation, and I get it. But I also don't claim
well,
to have any gifts. You know, I have no claim
well,
in that 500K because there's nothing special
well, we're
about me. I'm just a regular dude.
we're definitely skeptical about the spirit boxes. That's going to
Yeah.
be, those things work, right?
Oh, of course.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Listen, we're under no delusions. We always say, like, if someone created an app that could talk to the dead, the world as we know it would change forever. You know, it's
Change
like
forever.
I don't look at any of this stuff as any sort of secret weapon, and I'll joke around about a lot, right? Like if you hire a carpenter to renovate your house and he fucks the whole thing up, you're not going to blame his hammer.
No, you're
You know
gonna
what
be
I'm
hit.
saying? It's like it's just some tool that these guys use, which is why I tend to when we talk about intuition I'm using the word intuition, by the way, which might be the wrong word, but it's just the simplest one that I think we can all get a handle on. But I do think John is a little more plugged in than some other people in sort of recognizing what is happening. Because when I use these devices or these tools, I get dick, and when I see him use it, it's like it's what the specificity that pops up I find very strange,
Well,
and
but
it's
I mean, the
that's all.
part of the what I would say is happening with things like those spirit boxes, and this is the same thing that happens with cold reading as well. By the way, is you'll get some feedback from the thing, a word or a name or whatever, and then you, the user, has to retrofit that name to fit something that makes sense.
People do that
Like
all the time. I don't disagree with
yeah,
James one bit. In fact, that's one of my big things that I speak about on my live stream, which is the association. Like I need more than a name. Like so here's what I do and a lot of people don't like this. Spirit comes through and says, let's say Frank. Hey. Hey Frank, what's going on, Frank? How old are you, Frank? No age is given. I move on to the next thing while everybody is stuck on that name Frank. Well, if Frank can't give me an age, what am I supposed to do with that? That's nothing. That's nothing. That's randomness. Even if there is something there, there's no way for me to prove that that Frank is there. I need an
mhm.
age. Okay, so let's say Frank does give me an age. Then the next important question: Hey, Frank, what the hell are you doing here? Why are you here, Frank? Why were you here in the first place? And then I try to build a conversation off that. If the answers aren't specific, I want nothing to do with it. While in your experience, people using spirit boxes, as you said, they associate with everything. They try to connect the dots, and
Right,
it's
exactly.
it gives no credence to these actual devices when people use them that way because everyone's
Yeah, it's
scared of
like
how they're going to look.
right, or it's like, when John Edward or James Van Prague or Caputo or whatever come and says, "I'm getting an M or a J name," you're connecting the dots, who the M or J, or even if it's more specific, someone who was Mary over here. Yeah, I know a Mary. Okay, well, that's who I'm talking to.
One of the most common names
Yeah,
in the 19th century,
yeah,
18th and 19th
yeah.
century, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I actually, it's funny you mentioned that because we went to watch a couple of different James Van Prague. He had his show was being taped out here pretty close to CFI. And I heard him do two or three times say, "I'm getting an M or a J name." So I went straight to the computer and I was like, what are the most popular names over the last 50 years? And out of the top 10 men and women names, like four of them were M and J. So
Okay.
he's making a good, solid guess, and he gets a lot of hits that way.
Yeah. Yeah. All
Uh,
I know is that what James is saying is 100% correct. And I deal with it constantly. I can't tell you how
well, he
many
knows that.
people, I can't tell you how many people come into my live streams and say, John, you're ignoring the spirits. And it's like, no, I'm not ignoring the spirits. There's nothing viable here. I need more. My logical brain needs more.
Well, James
I
would say the whole goddamn thing
Yeah.
is not alive. It's
Well,
not
but that's the
viable.
thing though. There are times where I get that. There are
All
times,
right. Well,
it's not all the time, and that's what you're talking about, Gary. When I'm walking through a cemetery and all of a sudden a name Chaz Fields comes up. Chaz Fields. Who's named Chaz these days? Nobody. And then the last name Fields. That's when it's like, okay, Chaz, let's have a conversation. And that's
Yeah,
what I
there's
go
been
for.
some weird
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
There's been some weird stuff.
Hence why I document.
Um, uh, James, I have to ask you this because we ask all our guests this. I mean, I don't know if
No,
maybe I
I
don't know
love
the
this
answer, but do
answer.
you think, and it's like, do you believe it? What do you think spirits are?
yeah, I don't believe in spirits at all
Zero.
in the first place.
Okay, so
So
hold on, James. Let's say
Fair
you
enough.
did. Let's say all of a sudden you got some evidence and you're like, okay, 90% of this is bullshit, but there is that little bit that's real. Let's say that happens in the near future for you. What would you think they are?
well, I mean, the first thing I would do is what was that evidence and do I trust it? Because I mean, a lot of people have these experiences and they're misinterpreting the experience. I woke up one morning or one night, I don't even remember what it was now, but I felt a hand grab my calf and I can testify, it felt so real. I jumped out of bed and thought someone in the house was playing a joke on me. But the door was locked and the windows were locked and no one's under the bed or in the room at all. But I dreamt that hand touching me. So when the evidence comes up that sort of leads people to believe in something like that, I take a breath and say, okay, what are the logical, science based explanations that could be responsible for that experience and go from there?
Would you? But if I think the question here is sort of if a ghost walked into the Center for Inquiry and passed every test,
It said, I
right?
want
How would
500K, man.
how would you change? Would your whole worldview change? I mean, would you just be like, well, would you sign that check and quit and go back to the improv, or would you just like,
Yeah.
what would happen?
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's time to retire. Um, no, I mean, it's so hard for me to imagine that knowing what I do. I would really, I mean, first of all, I might even say, I mean, I'm kind of at the point where I look at stuff like that, and even with like pareidolia, picking uh,
Sure.
images out of
Yeah.
noise out in the
Both
world.
visual and
And
audio,
sometimes
because uh,
that's right. Very
yeah.
good.
Mhm.
So, sometimes that stuff is really cool. And I really try to appreciate, like seeing a face in something that shouldn't have a face in it, or a wild coincidence that so many things had to happen in the right way for this coincidence to happen. I try to just take a step back and say, wow, that's really cool. That doesn't happen very often. Um, if we started getting science-based information that spirits existed, then there's going to be a good scientific explanation. And yeah, science doesn't know everything yet. It's possible that we missed something or don't understand something about how the universe works. And now we look into it, and ghosts aren't paranormal anymore. They're science-based, and there will be an
It's what I
explanation
always
for it.
say. It's what I
Do you
exactly.
how many
Do
of
a T,
these come
James.
in
Do a T.
uh James, how many of these come in a year for you? These
Oh,
claims
good
of,
question.
paranormal activity.
So we got for well, claims in general a much bigger number, but
I mean, just specifically, like they want to win the 500 grand.
yeah. So applications for the $500,000 prize, we get between 150 and 200 a year, and we end up testing usually between 8 and 12 people out of that 150 to 200. Most of the people, find out what the tests are we're going to be. We always tell people try this at home first. This is what it's going to look like, and most of them just never show up to be tested.
Do you ever? I mean, Jay, is there any hope or like of when you go to the office that you will be proven wrong? Like, do you ever just like hope for the wonder? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there anything left in you that wants the joy of being blown away?
You
Or are
know,
you just like, fuck, I gotta listen to this crazy person.
I
Whoa, like
well,
this guy. And then it's like, get a load of this guy. Or is there any like, let today be the day where it's like I am blown away.
officially, I never say that. Oh, another
Not right.
record there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm so, and I was a crappy science student when I was like in junior high and high school, and have most of my science understanding, limited as it is, has happened after college. And I'm so fascinated about how the world really works and how psychology really works and physics and everything else that I'm so much more excited about that aspect of what reality is going to bring me today than, hoping some wacky paranormal thing comes true. So
I
that's
mean,
that's kind of my angle.
how cool would it be if somebody walked through his doors one day and a whole new area of science gets discovered? Like, screw the supernatural and paranormal element of it. Imagine that. Imagine someone comes walking through your door and bam, it opens up a new 50 years of discovery. And whose name's attached to it, man? Yours. That would be wild.
I do picture James to be like the Genghis Khan of the paranormal, where he's sitting there with the next and having
Yes,
Yes.
people coming
next.
in and showing him something and like,
You
what do
will
you
spend the
do? And
night
then
with
it's,
me tonight.
yeah, yes, and it, right.
Out, you're out, you're out, you're out.
Yeah, just,
Yeah,
Um,
you're in,
it's
you're
nuts.
out.
yeah, that's exactly how I want to be remembered, as wasting the last 26 years of my life looking for some shit that
What
doesn't
is,
exist.
listen, James, thank you so much for your time today, man, by the way. I really
Yeah, this has been an
appreciate it.
awesome interview, dude.
Uh, it's really interesting. It's really funny. What is the ultimate goal? If I could leave you with this question for the center of inquiry, like where's it going? And it's what is its pursuit, if not to actually prove one of these things is real? Like, why be an organization, like to have an organization to disprove, isn't it really to then say we hope to prove it one day?
Well, I mean, part of it is, and the reason I started the CFI investigations group is because storytelling is what gets these things, these beliefs going in the first place. It's a very powerful tool for getting memes out into the world. And if all we do is sit around and say, oh, the physics doesn't line up with that, and we just think this is bullshit, and let's go on to the next thing, that doesn't convince anyone. If I could come in and tell a story about the dozens and dozens of people who absolutely believe they have these powers and come out with a story and some explanations for why they thought they could do this and why these beliefs persist in general, I think it's a much more powerful teaching tool than just saying there's no way this could possibly be. So we're trying to get people to, especially now today, there's been an assault on science that's horrible, and you get idiots like RFK Jr. running science-based ends of the government. It's dangerous, man. If you have people who don't understand science making science-based science decisions, we're all in trouble. So we're trying to nudge people on the side of knowing things through that process of science.
Gary, we talk
So are you
about that
trying
all
to
the
tell me,
time, Gary.
James? No,
All
I
the
know, but
time.
James, are you trying to tell me then that the aliens did not build the pyramids? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that the aliens didn't have to build the pyramids. A lot of the set upon unfortunate sons of bitches built the
Yep.
pyramids.
Total side point. I have my own theory on how the pyramids were built, which
Well,
is,
listen, I figured
I
out how
believe.
pyramids were built when I was installing generators. I used to be an
Oh, let's hear it.
electrician. Okay. We're
Oh yeah.
talking
Let's
about
hear
big ass
this. Let's hear
generators,
this.
500-600 pound monsters that I'm moving myself. Okay. And it's
Let's hear
called
how. Let's hear it. I want to hear
ingenuity.
this too.
Oh, it's just simple. You just once you crowbar it up, you get a pipe underneath it, and then you push it a little bit. You get another one
Crowbars.
underneath it, and you keep going. Next thing you know, one man is moving a 600-pound generator across a lawn by himself. That's how those pyramids were built. Human
Okay, I think
ingenuity.
it was these.
You know?
My theory is the use of a lot of slaves and a lot
Well,
of sand.
yeah, hell yeah,
I think they
enslaved,
use
dude.
sand.
Well, not
I
all of
think
them.
they use
Not all those
sand.
pyramids were built.
Hold on a second, John. Hold on. I think they use sand to bring the rocks up, to glide it up, and they kept using sand. And then when it was done, they used all those slaves to literally dig it out. Because
Yeah,
the one thing they have out there is sand.
Sand.
that's a
And
good
that's
one.
like, they wonder how they got that rock up at the top. That's what I think they did.
There's a 40-year-old video of some guy in Florida who built the Coral Castle. Did you ever see that?
Oh, I know
So
what
he
I've
had
seen.
these big blocks of coral, and he moved them all himself. And he was like in his 50s when he did it. But yeah, it was all leverage and fulcrums and pry bars and stuff.
That's
Brilliant,
wild.
though.
I don't know how we got here.
I
It's just
think
sort of
one
fun to
of my
talk about
biggest,
aliens and
well,
ended on
yeah,
aliens.
but one of my biggest gripes with the paranormal, especially with everything, with aliens, the pyramids, you name it, is how people just take away from us. They take away from us. They take away. Listen, we could do some vile,
Yeah.
horrible, amazing, beautiful, incredible things as a species. And that gets stripped away from us when we start adding aliens in and this and that. It's pretty crazy to think about, but I've always thought of that. Like, whoa, we need
That's true.
help. You know, we can create and destroy things all the time. We need help? No, no
Because
way we do.
look around, John. I mean, there's intelligence is a curve, and there's a lot of stupid people. So you think about, there's no way. I look around, I'm like, there's no way we could have figured out how to do that. there's a lot of like.
Well, you keep the stupid people out of it. That's the
James has people who think they can teleport coming in.
Well,
You're gonna tell me that guy built the pyramids? There's a million of them. Like they built, like this guy built the pyramids.
Well,
that's why we think it.
That's not the guy you put on the pyramid project. He's the
Right.
guy who shovels the donkey shit or the camel shit next to the pyramid.
He could barely handle the lunch order for the pyramid guy. I mean, it's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like, you don't know what. That's why we always think the worst of us, John. We got teleporter over there.
To each his own according to his ability. That's the key.
Yeah.
James, this was super fun.
Yeah,
I think people, it's good. It's a good, for us, it's a good balance of things. And I always like getting an outside and a different perspective on, what's happening. And it's good to keep it grounded, and as we move forward and sort of explore this. And I mean, dude, we talk to everybody. We talk to parapsychologists and mediums and witches and other ghost hunters and skeptics. And we like to hear it. It's a fun world of, I guess, this parascience, right? I mean, we all like to think we've got a handle on it, but I don't know. I find it really fascinating.
It's interesting, and that's why all these shows are on and movies and TV shows over the decades. I mean, people are interested in this stuff, and let's give them another side of it to think about. That's our approach.
So, James, you got anything coming up? Or you want to promote? You want us to plug people like what?
Yeah, the man's got $500, $500K waiting to get given away.
Yeah, Start with that. Go to the CFIIG.org and the $500,000 challenge. If you think you have superpowers, come and take our money, and good luck to you. You're going to need it. Also, our Skeptilab is our web series where we take one belief and debunk it this is devoted to specifically debunking things that we've worked on for years. Check it out at skeptilab.tv.
And you have great guests on there.
Walsh was our good friend. Matt Walsh was on there, and Andy Richter was on there, Jim O'Hare, Julia Sweeney. It's a lot of fun and informative. And then finally, if you want to go crazy and come to our 50th anniversary party, we're going to have a conference in beautiful downtown Buffalo, New York in June. 11th to the 14th, and
at least you picked June.
So much.
But wait, hold on a second. I think let's talk. You want to talk about something? Isn't Buffalo
it's one of the worst
places
ever existing?
I went to school in Syracuse, and
it's
weather
beautiful in the summer.
Just no, dude. It's got 2 seasons: humid and freezing, and it's upstate New York. I mean, listen, God love Buffalo, I guess. I feel sorry for, why would you of all the places, dude, you live out here.
Why
are you going to Buffalo?
No, our headquarters is in Amherst, which is suburban Buffalo. So that's why it's there. And Buffalo in June is great. The lake is right there. There's a lot of cool neighborhoods, and it's a town on the comeback. Do you want to be driving your car there in February? Probably not, but it's in June, so don't worry about it.
Well, we'll definitely promote it. I mean, it's fun. Yeah. Sorry, Buffalo. It's like listen.
Yeah, we
Buffalo,
didn't mean to shit all over you, Buffalo.
Pennsylvania.
Yes, we did.
No, they're great.
Yeah,
no.
cool.
I always we always make fun of Pennsylvania. It's the only state we laugh at here. We just.
Hey, James, listen, this has been great, man. This has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time. It
really is, James. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
this is super fun. I hope you had fun. It was really great. Thank you so much,
James. Thanks for having me on. It's been great fun chatting with you guys. And if something comes up that's a little weird and you want to set a skeptical, scientific eyes on it, give me a call again.
And tell me if somebody ever teleports for real.
Yeah. If someone teleports up. Yeah.
Don't hold your breath. And if you want to invest in the $500 Okay, your money's safe with me.
Will do, man. Thanks, James.
Awesome, James. Thank you, man.
Well, that's it for another episode of Splintered Spirits. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, stay curious.